record this?
I will record it. Don't worry.
Okay. So guys, let's begin. The first thing is, sorry for this code. I'm not so expert on backend side, but I'm gonna try to introduce you the GraphQL for you. So let's kick it off with what is GraphQL is just an alternative for the API requests, but we got a little bit performance there, and we just have only one endpoint. So basically, this is very simple how we can use this. I'm connecting to MongoDB here. I know it's not the best way, but now it's working. I struggled a little bit with Docker this weekend, so it was very hard. And now I just define this endpoint here, right? This is where we're gonna ask everything and make all the queries and what we call mutations. Basically, the mutations are all the posts we use, the post, put, and delete. So basically, we just need to set up our schema. GraphQL has two sides, let's say this, the type defs and the resolvers. The types are where you set up all the types. So basically, you need a type for some object, and you have to define the queries here. So basically, I have one query for get one user and for getting all the users here. And the mutations, you just find type mutation and the function for mutation. Basically, you find the params here. Basically, they are typed, so you have to define if it is string or number or something like this. This exclamation here means that is required type, right? So you have to define here your functions on the type defs or types, like I'm saying here, and the resolvers. So here you have the functions that it's gonna run when you call the query or the mutation. So basically now I'm using Mongo here. I don't know, I saw in the channel someone asking for how to set up the GraphQL with, I don't know, with some database without being Prisma, because the Prisma is their own database. So basically, how to GraphQL, the website has a problem because they just wipe the data that they typed before. So basically, this, what I'm doing here, it's what I saw in 2016, and they don't have this documentation yet. So I can pass the database as a context here, and this will be available on the third parameter here. So in that case, they were saying to do this for encapsulating just for you're gonna use here. So I'm using the user because it's the user that I need to use. But for instance, I could use a post just if I type it here. Let me show you this user as a model. I'm using Mongoose. So I just find the user. And like I said, I could use a post, for instance, right? And just pass as context here. Here. Sorry, here. Right, so basically you have to set up your express here and pass all these schemas. What means schemas? It's the types and the resolvers. So here's the file. You import this guy here, make execute with schema from GraphQL tools, and you just pass the types and the resolvers, and this will be available here. Basically, GraphQL is this combination. Then they should match, right? So if you have a query on types users, you should have a query type, a query user query on resolvers. So this won't break if you don't match those files. And one thing that is good is that you have this guy here. It's kind of playground here. Let me change for this one. You can just test your queries and mutations here. So if I get the users, I will get here. And I can ask whatever I want here. If I type the name, I will get the name. And I have one more field here called email, right? For the mutations, if I do this, I'm gonna add this guy here. And if I check here, this will be done. You get all the users list here. This is very good because you can test. As a front-end developer, this is good because I don't need be asking for the backend guy every time. I just need to use this GraphQL playground here and test if I'm doing correctly. If it's working here and not working on my side, basically I need to update and improve my side because something's not working on my code, right? And this button here, I have the docs. Someone is asking. What is some codes, Damian? What do you mean?
Yeah, so basically what I wanted to add here for the ones that doesn't know about GraphQL, that it's mostly a query language. The idea behind this is that you can fetch whatever you want instead of having an API endpoint for everything. So you don't have like many endpoints to use. You only post what you need. And then the last thing that I wanted to add is that you have queries and mutations. And basically the difference between them is that with queries, you fetch what you want to fetch. And with mutations, you perform operations like deletes, updates, and etc.
Yep, basically just to add what Damian's talking about, we are just using this endpoint here. How do we cancel the full screen here? I'm not getting back to my code. Guys.
You have it on the toolbar.
What do you want to
do? Where?
What do you want to do?
I just want to leave the full screen.
Oh, okay. It's like F11.
The green button on the top left. You have the red, yellow, and green. Just press the green one. On to the left.
Here?
No, up to the left. On the browsers. Yeah, that one.
No, but I want to leave it from here. I'm not. Sorry, guys. I put this here. Okay. Yeah, this is the only endpoint that Damian was talking about. So basically, we're just gonna use this for all the requests. And yeah, we can ask whatever we want since the fields are not required. Like this. Let me take these types here. When you find your types, you can set them as required. If they aren't required, you can ask whatever you want. Just send the required. For instance, if I use this, I would just want the users, he autocompletes for you using just the required types. This is set as required here. So basically this is gonna bring to you the ID, right? And one more thing is that I found this lib called merge GraphQL schemas. So basically you can merge all your resolvers and all your types in one file. So basically you can keep them organized. So I could create a post folder for resolvers and for types and merge them, just importing them and adding to this vector here, the array, and they should be available for you on the API. So basically this is from the backend side. Yeah, it's not my expertise, but it's something like this. And to access this from the front-end side, you just need to hit this endpoint. So basically, If I go here, I just have to import this guy here, Apollo client, and set up the URL we're gonna hit. In my case, it's localhost 4000 slash GraphQL, and this will be available for me. This is some documentation from React Apollo, and it's very similar to Redux. You just have to wrap this guy with Apollo provider. They may send me very nice link for reusing React Apollo hooks. So basically just change the way you use the queries and mutations from React Apollo on front-end side. So basically it's easier if you are getting used to use React hooks. So I'm gonna show you an example. The users list, what I need to use here is just the query like I'm using here on the GraphQL. Just this guy. For instance, will be this here. So I have my query here. Get users is exactly what I'm doing there, right? I just need to get all the list of users. And here on users, I just pass to this guy called use query. And this guy will return me 3 states. The data, basically, when the data will be done, I will get this guy or an error in the loading state. So basically, this will be false or true. And I just can get the data here. This will return me an object with users, and I can map them. So basically, here, I have the integration. Just for you see, if I create a new one, guy here, just admin, this will be updated here. So basically it's not hard, but I think it's a new paradigm, and it's hard to start and set up, but it's not hard. And the same thing is with the mutation. Here I have the add user. Basically I used React hooks here just for setting the name and the email here on this guy. For instance, here, I'm setting guys here and here, not here, here and here. And when I click the button, yeah, I set the fields to empty, and I call this mutation here. What I'm doing here, basically I have the mutation add user. So let me show to you guys here. It's the same I was doing there. Basically, you set up the fields you want to pass. In that case, it's the name and the email, right? And I just setting up which fields I should return if the mutation was successful. So basically, here, I call this, and I have one more option here called refetch queries. If I got to run this mutation, I can refresh the data to be automatically updated here on the UI. So what I have to do is like is queries on the plural. I have to return an array with all the queries that I want to refetch. In our case, it's just the get users. You just take this one, exactly we were doing on the users list. And when I click here, I save the user, and after saving the user, I refresh the users list. So basically this is automatic. If I do the opposite here, the data should be here. Yeah, they are the same. And yeah, for curiosity, I'm saving on the Mongo. So basically this data will be always here. And the same thing is with delete some user. Let's check here. If I delete one, the delete is exactly the same thing. I just call the delete user mutation from here. I just need to pass the user ID, right? And after I just refresh the query and we will update the UI automatically. So I can do this and it's working. I can connect the both sides. I use GraphQL on the backend side, and on the front end side, I can use React Apollo or React Apollo roots. More things for you. Basically, I want to show who's using. There are many companies using, right? I know that GitHub is using, and New York Times has migrated their code, I think, 2 years ago to GraphQL. And what I was saying the Slack channel is that they were agreeing. I have some difficulties with GraphQL because sometimes they made more advertising than what they could do. So last year I was in a project using GraphQL and they didn't have implemented the subscription yet for the last version of React Apollo, and I have to do a lot of workarounds to make the code work. I asked on GitHub, and 2 months later they respond that was on the latest version, and they closed. But the project was closed yet, right? I was changed in a client, so wasn't so good. Yeah, the client understood the situation, but this is not good, right? And their docs are not so good. So yeah, it's good. I think it's the future, but I have to think about this. I mean, there are more stuff to think how we can organize the code, how we can switch the Redux stage on the front end side, how we can handle, because the Apollo has their own state and it wasn't so easy to handle. Um, and I have more difficulties for handling this, but man, it's working. And you have complex data from backend. You can save more data, and the performance will be better than we are working on with REST. So I think this is a point, and I have to plan to check which options better. But I think this is the future, and we can use this. So I don't know if you have some questions or comments.
I have one question. Very nice talk. Um, can Redux and GraphQL live together?
Yeah, in the past they have the option that you can integrate the Redux inside the Apollo, but they were migrating to use their own state. So now I don't know how is the situation if you can still add the Redux. For instance, what I think this is that I'm working on with Gonzalo, that we have the Redux sagas and we have selectors, and we can we organize the code I think the best way. And with when I used the Apollo state, it wasn't nothing compared we have now. So this is one point to think, because I think they are green at this point because Redux is really better in that way. So I really don't know what they can improve this, but from our reality now on LAN, I think is not so good as we are doing there.
Okay.
I have the answer for that. So yeah, you can have both Redux and GraphQL. So as Alex said, Redux manage its own cache for sorry, its own store for one way to say it. But you can have both things. The truth is that for some things it's probably easier to use Redux, but in general, my experience on this was that I I left both technologies working together, living together on the same repo, but I mostly stopped using Redux and I used more GraphQL. So
You,
yeah, the answer is yes.
yeah. Are you using Apollo Link Stage?
Apollo what? Sorry.
Apollo Link Stage. One.
Not
I
sure.
think is it because I'm not sure if it's the correct name, but they have their own stage. I used this, but it's very simple compared to Redux. So the client decided last year to not use Redux and just use the own Apollo state. So basically,